Thousand Tales presents The Mysterious Sands by Scott Godfrey. Read by Matthew Carson. For Mr. Smith, the problem was imagining them. Along his skin each day, he intimately knew there crawled bacteria, tiny forms of life which fed on him, devouring him a piece at a time. When he looked in a mirror at his eyelashes, he knew there were small, elongated forms of follicle mites moving like transparent caterpillars into and out of himself, making long, loving gestures one to another, regarding him as little more than an island of plenty, some uncharted continent, some Eden. Each day he studied some new tragedy. He had made a study of each species, which called humanity its home. Of course, he should not worry, his friends told him, for in a universe of endless life, what did it matter if we too were simply alien worlds to others, considering that those creatures which dwelled on us were more familiar than anything we had found, and yet even amongst alien beings there was always some communion. But Mr. Smith was not happy, and so he sought his escape. The planet of the mysterious sands loomed into view. It was a single world, crimson and silver, and its lone moon overhead seemed like a singular eye peering down across everything. He regarded the world as his salvation, and he was not alone. Others felt the same as he. This was not merely an exile, but an exodus, and each one desired the same. He stepped upon the world and was greeted by an Akrabwamalu. He shuddered, involuntarily, but the creatures merely smiled or tried to, and he was led across the sands to the only building upon the entire world. Of course, all pale others followed whose names he did not know, those he did not shake hands with or inquire about. He could only see the crawling beasts along their skins. Note their eyes were the great oceans of monsters, gelatinous and porous places his tormentors surely must have walked across. Surely, the refugees were led through great triangular doors into the galleries. No one spoke. Before they had arrived, they had made their selections. All this was mere formality. Some stood beside the image of the black trees, those sweeping branches with oddly weeping forms etched along the bark. But he did not stay with them. Some stood beside the images of leopards mingled with a serpent's skin and serpent's eyes and a long, graceful neck. But he did not stay with them. He stood beside an image of a lizard bird. There, in that dark gallery, he stood before a winged reptilian form, knowing that in the moment of transformation his tormentors would no longer exist. He would be free of them. He knew it. The guide nodded and then led them out upon the mysterious sands. Those who had chosen the trees went first. Mr. Smith watched as pale young men and women stripped naked and then walked between the last temple and a small rivulet of silver, which was the last finger of an ocean stretched so far away. One touch upon the sands, and they staggered, fell. Others came, scorpion people like the Akrabwamalu himself, golden-skinned, their barbed tails waving behind them idly, their myriad eyes regarding the initiates with a cool pity as with great powerful limbs they were taken and carried back into the gallery. Below the temple was a forest. These few would soon be added to the greenery. Next, those who wished become the Serpopards. They too came out upon the sands, stripped of all things human save themselves. But the scorpion people did not follow. With a guttural growl, first one, then others began to change, spouting scales, watching their former bodies flee away from them. Realizing finally their necks were growing longer as fingers fell off and fur grew amid the scales while they lost their power of speech. Then they one and all sprinted away to become part of those herds of beasts which occupied far countries far away. Lastly, it was his turn. He felt his arm shrink as the sand clung into him. He felt his mouth slide forward, becoming a beak, felt his eyes blacken yellow, and finally felt his tormentors die, one by one, falling off him, there onto the sands. He vomited, knowing each bacteria passed out into the void far from their planetary home. He felt his skin crack and peel and fall like the funeral clothes of a dead man, a hanged criminal who shed his former existence like a chrysalis. And then he flew far away, never looking back. Up from the sand a stirring began. It seemed a small rippling at first, but then more and more. It seemed as if the sand gave up its dead. The rippling continued, and then a hand pierced into the light at last. A long body, serpent-like, appeared elsewhere. 8 stubby legs pierced through as a soft, transparent body pushed its way out to be born. A strange, gelatinous form emerged. Eyeless, it sent small tendrils out in all directions and then somehow noticed the temple beyond. Jewel-like eyes peered upward from the sand as 8 hooked legs rose, and the pale creature suddenly found herself reborn. The hand was followed by an arm, by 2, by 3. The Akrabamalu went forth to collect his kin, while other scorpion people gathered to them the rest. Of course, most did not survive the transformation. Buried far below were the dead bodies of so many, the subtle corpses left to torment the whole of the world. But of course, even this was temporary. Smith imagined the entire world to be intimately aware of him as the moon beat down like a single staring eye, and he was finally afraid from the other side. The end.